welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing well. Baseball is making a turn right back into where it was in January of 2020, but you know what? We just gotta ride with it at this point, because I feel like we're kind of numb to this feeling at this point where it's becoming more and more known that the entire league cheats, but I guess we still gotta break it down, right?
Yeah. We're getting into the sticky substance saga once again, because that's pretty much all that's been tackling the headlines over the past couple weeks and pretty much the entire season. So this week it's been the Josh Donaldson versus Garrett Cole controversy. I don't really know where that I forgot where that started.
Well, it didn't necessarily start somewhere. It's sort of just, Garrett Cole's one of the headliners in the pitchers using the sticky stuff. We saw that non-answer in the media question this week, which we'll get into, but it's just Garrett Cole is one of the headliners versus Josh Donaldson, who's, said to have been releasing a video regarding the pitchers that have been cheating. It's not anything particular between the two of them. It's just their roles in this whole scandal so far, and the fact that they're going up against each other. And I don't really think I expected Josh Donaldson to do anything against Cole. I mean, he is past his prime, and he's had injury issues through the last couple years, while Garrett Cole is literally, in his prime. But that matchup was obviously interesting last night, and both of them had some comments this past week.
Yeah. Because I was kind of wondering where that was, but I mean, I imagine there's going to be a lot more than Garrett Cole if a hypothetical video comes out. But yeah, Cole. Yeah, for those who don't know, Cole, had like a 200 RPM jump after joining the Astros, and that's why people suspect external foreign substances being used. Donaldson has been kind of tackling the headlines. I mean, what else has happened in the sticky substance saga?
Garrett Cole pitched last night for the Yankees. His RPM was pretty far down from the usual again. It wasn't as severe as his last start against the Tampa Bay Rays, and he still pitched very well. But his I think his fastball RPM was down like 70 RPM from the average for this year. So that's obviously, a sign that it had some sort of effect, because I think we mentioned this, but the minor league suspended 4 pitchers for 10 games for using substances, and ever since then, a lot of pitchers have seen some noticeable RPM drops. Trevor Bauer being one of them, obviously Garrett Cole being one of them. One of the funniest ones I saw, the RPM on Corbin Burns' cutter was down like 200 RPM his last start, and he went 7 shutout innings with 13 strikeouts and no walks.
Yeah, and that's a prelude to a later segment, because it was against the Diamondbacks on the road.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse low RPM win.
Yeah. To get into the specifics, Garrett Cole on Wednesday night against the Twins, his 4-seam fastball RPMs was down 52 RPM from his usual, and his slider RPMs were down 80 from his usual RPM. And I got to get that Corbin Burns start, which was on Monday or Tuesday?
It was on Sunday. Yeah.
There were like no games on Monday.
There was literally 3 games.
Yeah, 2-0 win. Player breakdowns for Corbin Burns.
Look at the cutter. That's like
Corbin
that's his best pitch.
Burns, cutter. I think they're skewed at first, and then like the difference comes down a little bit. His cutter spin rate was down 112, but
Yeah.
that's still very significant.
Okay, maybe it wasn't 200. I saw it on MLB Network.
Yeah,
They had like a graphic of like all the pitchers that have had significant spin rate drops. He was one of them. Josh Hader was also one of them. But he, luckily he relies more on velocity.
yeah, and it's weird seeing like you'll see stuff on social media after a game is finished, and then the numbers will be different on Savant when you check it out
Yep.
from when you like saw a picture. So I feel like it was closer to 200 RPM at one point, but it's just like gone down for whatever like correctional reasons. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't
But
know either.
yeah, on Savant it has it down still over 100 RPM. That's pretty significant. It's not like spin rate is something that normally varies that much. So yeah. Uh so yeah, and we're probably going to see it you know, just wait. I mean, at one point one MLB player like this will be enforced against, and then we'll really see some
hmm
changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think my target date is the end of June because I want to see like what the May spin rates look like versus what the June spin rates look like. I mean, is there like any sort of known correlation between weather and spin rate? And like, does it spin more when it's warmer or colder? Or like, is there any known data on that?
I feel like it would spin higher when it's warmer out because like you have a better grip on the ball anyway when it's warmer out, unless you're like sweaty or something.
Yeah,
But and
maybe
also
maybe it's got to be like a medium temperature ish, like a
yeah,
lukewarm.
yeah, and
Yeah,
like velocity, since velocity goes up as it gets warmer, so that means also spin rate will correlate and go up.
yeah.
Um,
I think we should talk about those comments that Garrett Cole didn't have, in his press conference the other
I'll
day.
actually, yeah,
I
I'll
was say
screen
put can you
share it
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say
it's
we need
hard
to
to
get the clip in there.
explain. It's hard to explain just what his non-answer was, and it's pretty hilarious to look at. But yeah, he was asked about spider tack,
hmm
and he gave the biggest non-answer. All right, here we go. Or gonna screen share it. Head over to the YouTube channel if you want to watch it. All right, here we go.
I don't I don't know. I don't know if I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest. I mean, there are customs and practices that have been passed down from older players to younger players, from the last generation of players to this generation of players, and um, I think there are some things that are certainly out of bounds in that regard, and I've stood pretty firm in terms of that, in terms of the communication between our peers and whatnot. And I, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's this is important to a lot of people that love the game, and this is including the players in this room, including fans, including teams. And so if MLB wants to legislate some more stuff, that's a conversation that we can have, because ultimately we should all be pulling in the same direction on this.
So yeah, that was
Um,
yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't really know how I would have answered that question. Like, it is a yes or no question where the answer is clearly a yes. Um, and like at this point, there's no real way around lying about it because it is a very known thing. But he went very deep into like well, they're customs that are passed down. Like this has been happening, but like it's been like he gave it a yes without giving it a yes. But I mean, the answer is a no. And like, there is really no secret, but he kind of gave it all away and left any like, if there was any doubt before, it's gone after this press conference.
Yeah, yeah. Um, one thing I actually want to point out is I hope that once uh if sticky substances end up being, you know, a thing of the past, I hope it doesn't get treated like steroids were, and that like it was sort of some evil thing to do. It's like, no, this was kind of the era where this was being done, and now it's over. Like I feel like I I hope it doesn't get like that where every single person who used to use a sticky substance gets like shamed, especially the ones
Yeah.
who were doing the best while doing it.
Like if 20 years from now we're having this conversation with the Hall of Fame, like we're doing right now with steroids, like I'm not for that at all. Like I've had enough of this, should players who did this, because let's not forget, most of the time that this sticky stuff revolution has been going on, let's assume it started in 2018 just for right now, which that's very broad and we really don't know anything, but just for Garrett Cole's purposes, let's just say it started in 2018. Almost all that time, the league has been using juice balls anyway. So the hitters have had some sort of advantage with the pitchers having some sort of advantage. And it's only right now, in this day and age, when the league, dead into the baseball, which by the way, I'm still very shook at the fact that Rob Manfred had the audacity to announce deadening the baseball, even when he openly said he wasn't juicing them to begin with.
Right.
Like that doesn't make any sense. And you now have the league batting averages, down to historical lows like since the year of the pitcher. Um and now this is being looked at as like this serious, like, oh my god, this is bad sort of thing once the hitters, can't do their jobs. By the way, did you see what Pete Alonso had to say the other day?
No.
He said that I thought this was interesting, and it's something that no one else has brought up. He said that he thinks that the league would do this in accordance to like the upcoming free agent class,
Oh, right. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I actually did see that.
which is like, if there's a lot of pitchers coming up the market, juice up the balls. If there's a lot of hitters going on the market, deaden it. Which, like, I think I'm just trying to think, like, last offseason there wasn't a ton of free agents, but the biggest one was a pitcher. But there's only
Yep.
really one big pitcher free agent out there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like it would be really significant in terms of the going into 2020 the going into 2020 free agents, because like that was the year. 2019 was the year of the juiced ball. And I guess technically Garrett Cole and
Anthony
Steven
Rendon.
Strasburg,
Yeah.
and then Rendon. I mean, Rendon and Strasburg got the exact same deal, and you didn't know that Strasburg was going to be a free agent because he got through on an opt out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if uh I don't necessarily see the correlation off the top of my head, but there might be a correlation. I'm not sure. And like, yeah, 2021, the free agent class going into the offseason after this year, it's mostly hitters. It's mostly at the shortstop position.
Hmm.
There's maybe one good pitcher out there, and by Kevin Gossman, and we didn't even know he was going to be this
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
going into like the league wasn't thinking about it. And I mean, like, I don't know necessarily if I want to bank on this, but I think there is very good reason to believe that the league would want to do this so that teams don't have to pay players as much.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it by them.
I wouldn't doubt that motive, but I don't know if it's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I don't really think that's going on
I mean, like,
particularly, unless it's this particular year. You could say the past ones I couldn't really say.
I mean, like the CBA is. I think like I think everything's going to be resolved. I don't know if it's going to be resolved, but I think we're going to have a lot of answers, um, next winter when the CBA happens. Um,
Yeah, and
and I mean, I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but last time the CBA was up, like they took to the last day to get it done, and if they didn't, there was going to be a strike.
what
Like I
year was
think
that?
it was 2016 going into 17.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Um,
Like I don't know. Like I would not be surprised if there's a strike to begin next season. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like
yeah,
I
that's
think that
true.
that's a very real possibility, especially because like I mean there was no real known I don't know how to like disagreements I guess between the league and the players association. It's very public now and it's been going on publicly for a year now because right around this time last year was when the labor negotiations were reaching like its lowest point because I remember it was June 15th, I believe, when Rob Manfred had that statement where he was like, well, now I don't know if we're gonna play after like days after saying there's 100% chance.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, but yeah, as you know, the whatever problems there are now are a lot more publicized. And yeah, I mean, Major League Baseball is, I mean, unfortunately, I guess kind of due for a strike because it happened in 1981 and happened in 1994, and it hasn't happened for
Since
28
then,
years, or 27 years. So potentially,
and every other of the four major sports has had a strike since then as well.
yeah, or I guess they call it lockouts, but yeah, it
Yeah.
all happened around 2011, 2012
hmm
time.
And I mean, like this is I think the public notion is in a much different place than it was in 94. Like if you go back and look at footage from 1994 of like I watched this there was like footage of fans reacting to the strike and it was all like complaints about the players and how they're so greedy and like they're already getting paid enough. And now you look at it and it's like, oh, okay, the players have a very valid say here and the owners are in the wrong. Like I think that's sort of the public view of this in most people's eyes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the world perception has changed a little bit.
Very different. Um, but yeah, I mean, like we've seen the owners try to do this before. They tried to lowball the players several times. They stalled so much on the labor negotiations to try to get us, to try to get a 40 game season out there. Like you remember this, Chris? The players were going for like 80 games or something like that, and the league was like, yeah, yeah, that's cool. And they'd wait to make sure that enough time passed to where there was no way they could have played an 80 game season.
Yep,
And then
that's pretty much exactly what happened.
yeah, and you saw when like they did the same thing in spring training where they were like, they were trying to delay the season, so that they wouldn't, so that they could do a prorated salary again like they did.
Oh
Like that
yeah,
was very much a thing. And then of course there was the Kevin Mather comments, which is a whole different, that was its own thing that we discussed.
yeah. The delaying of spring training thing was the most ridiculous thing because every other
hmm
major sport was uh was doing whatever with, and mostly with partial crowds too. It
Yeah,
was so stupid. Um, yeah, it was very transparent what they were trying to do. But yeah, I guess yeah, that kind of rolls in. Yeah, we went pretty in depth there. Do we
yeah. I
want to
mean, I
talk
guess
about?
like just to bring it home, like the Garrett Cole comments, I think they tell us what that we already need to know, and it was just said by one of the faces of the. Because like if Trevor Bauer speaks out all the time, so it's not really news when he speaks out against the whole thing. When Garrett Cole says something like that, it becomes news because he's the other face of it and he's not as outspoken.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't have a weekly vlog that comes out
Yeah.
talking about
He
all
doesn't
the
literally have
issues.
a shirt that says legalize pine tar. And I know that pine tar is different. Pine tar isn't spider tack. Um, but like I think I feel a lot better about saying this now. I said it last show, but Trevor Bauer's role in this is very similar to Barry Bonds' role in the steroid era.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's the guy who like, Barry Bonds wasn't exactly calling out steroids, but he was like, all right, well, you know what? Like if everyone's gonna do this and they're gonna get away with it, then why shouldn't I? And you
Right.
know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put up a 1422 OPS. I'm going to become the greatest hitter the world has ever seen and will ever see for the rest of time. And no one's going to stop me until the league decides to do something about this.
Yeah. And yeah, they didn't
And that's what
start
Bauer's doing.
they didn't start testing until '03 and punishment until '05. And I think
Mhm.
like once Bonds hit 73, it's like, all right, well, we might have to fix something here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess you know, we prefaced this segment a little bit with the talking about Corbin Burns going 7 shutout innings with 13 strikeouts, despite a significantly lower spin rate than normal. But he did it against the Diamondbacks when they were on the road, and the Diamondbacks. So the last time the Diamondbacks won a game on the road was April 25th, which was 11 episodes ago for us. And, you know, we're only twice weekly. It's not like we do this every day. 11 episodes in between Diamondbacks road wins. And yeah, we got to talk about just how bad it's been.
Yeah. The Diamondbacks, they've lost what 20 straight road games. Uh, they've been statistically one of the worst teams on both sides of the ball. They have the lowest road FWAR offensively since May 4th, which is when they played their first of the 20 road games that they lost consecutively. They're the only team that's under under one FWAR in that time. They're slashing 223, 290, 341. That slugging percentage being by far the worst in the league. I'm pretty sure they would have the worst OPS as well. They have a 279 WOBA, which is the worst in the league. 75 weighted runs created plus, which is the second worst in the majors. And on the pitching side as well, they have the 28th highest FWAR in the league with the exact same 0.8 as they do on offense. They have a 5.17 ERA, which is the second worst behind the Baltimore Orioles. They have one of the worst FIPS. They have one of the worst xFIPS. They have just about the worst everything. There was absolutely nothing going right for this team on the road. And also, um, out of the 13 hitters that have at least 20 plate appearances on the road in these 20 games, there's only one that is above average, and it's Josh Rojas, who was one of my how about that's earlier this season. He is an 841 OPS in these road games. The next best is a 724 from Ketel Marte, who's only played in a few of those games. The next best from a regular player is Eduardo Escobar with a 681. And at the same time, there have been how many pitchers out of all the pitchers that have thrown at least 10 innings, which is, you know, an inning every half game, I suppose. There have been 6 of said pitchers. The only one with a somewhat decent ERA is Caleb Smith with a 257. The next best is Matt Peacock with a 430, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's not really good either. Um,
Yeah,
there's like this is a perfect storm of just everything being bad with this team.
yeah, and it seems to be really specifically a road issue because one thing that pops out is, you know, Carson Kelly's had a very good year, but on the road since since May 4th when this losing streak started, on the road he has a 579 OPS, and this is from a guy who's having a very good season, but just on the road it just seems to be different. I'm wondering what their home record is in this span
Ooh,
too,
ooh.
since their last road win, because I feel like it might be around 500 or something like that.
It's probably something around there. I mean, probably not. It's probably less because they've lost 6 of their last, or they've lost 30 of their last 36. They're 6-30 in their last 36 games as a whole.
Okay, so all right,
That's very bad.
so since
Um,
April 25th, they are, uh, I believe, so they are 9-32. So if you take out the road games, that's 9-12 since their last road win. They're
yeah,
at home. Still bad, but yeah, it's rough.
it's been ugly. Here's one for you, Chris. In these 20 road games, they've had 157 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. They are slashing 110, 192, 221, 413 for an 18 weighted runs created plus.
Jeez, they're hitting
That's
110.
that's just about all. Yeah, they're 15 for they are 15 for 157. Well, I mean, I guess not 157. However many at bats they have.
Yep.
Yeah, that OPS is by far the worst in the league. The average is the worst in the league. The next worst is 140 by the Rockies. The weighted runs created plus is worse in the league. The next worst is 25 by the Pirates.
That's
Yeah, that's horrendous.
that's
That
horrific.
is very, very bad.
Like, yeah, if you're doing that as a team, never gonna work. But yeah, I feel like we haven't really addressed this team yet, but they're on a historic bad run. Like,
And
especially for a team.
they were over 500 in April too.
Yeah, they started 15 and 13. They were 15 and 13 as of they were if this thing will go up. Yeah, they were 15 and 13 on May 2nd. Like
Mhm.
they were like a decent. I think they were right up there with the Giants at this point in the year. And I was thinking, all right, maybe this Diamondbacks team could end up being a third place team, and then they went in completely opposite directions.
The Diamondbacks ISO with runners in scoring position is the exact same as their batting average. That's not supposed to happen.
Oh my, yeah,
That's not at all supposed to happen.
yeah, that's not good. I'm trying to see where the Giants were on May 2nd. Oh, 17
The
17 and
Giants,
11.
they were good still.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were
17
good
and
still.
11.
They've always been very good.
They were
They
ahead.
also the Diamondbacks also have a BABIP with runners in scoring position of 121. That is by far the worst. They're the worst in the league, pretty much at everything, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, but it's it's a thing where they've just been so bad and we've yet to acknowledge it, and we didn't like you could have had them as a fourth place team, but you know
I
you
did
didn't
have them as a fourth place. I mean, they still could be a fourth place team. The Rockies aren't too far behind,
yeah,
or too
like
far ahead, rather.
you didn't expect it to be this bad, and I think injury does have a bit to do with that. Like Ketel Marte is their best position player, he's out,
Mhm.
and Zach Gallen is their best pitcher, he's out, but still,
I
it's
mean,
just
this time last year, we were talking about them going to the NLCS.
yeah, yeah. Well, when the expanded playoff came out,
Exactly.
that's when I was thinking NLCS with the power staff of Madison Bumgarner, Luke Weaver, and Zach Allen.
Hmm. I mean, Zach Allen worked out.
Yeah, one of the three was able to do well. Madison Bumgarner has not been nearly the same as he was.
The Diamondbacks have a 556 slugging against, with runners in scoring position. That's the second worst in the majors.
Wow. Yeah, 556 slugging is like that's going to put you in the MVP race
Hmm.
if you're a player. But yeah, that's so that's how bad the Diamondbacks have been
Yeah.
doing.
By the way, I just want to go back on something because that I noticed. Um, Hang on. Okay, yeah. The Houston Astros are like in this same sample since May 4th are by far the best hitting team on the road. Like it's not even close. They lead the entire quadruple slash line. They lead in WOBA. They lead in weighted runs created plus. They have the lowest strikeout rate. They're 2 wins above any other team. Uh, their offensive runs above average is double the next best team. Like that is pretty insane for the team that gets heckled on the road more than anyone else.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how they've been able to recover, and I think
Yeah.
it might, if anything, like kind of redact the idea that anything might have been going on in like 2019, but still probably not. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
Houston since May 4th on the road, hitting 307 with an 847 OPS. Like that's just that's pretty insane. Just a
Yeah.
casual 307 team batting average.
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, we get into the players to highlight for good and bad reasons. So to start for our June 10th 2021 edition of
How
Who do you got for us today?
Yeah, I got a guy who, he's been around the block. And he had a very good game last night, and I was actually gonna highlight him before his 2 home run game last night. And he gave me even more reason to do it. Ryan Zimmerman, has come back pretty strong for the Nationals. Last season was the first ever Nationals season that he missed. He opted out due to COVID reasons, was re-signed in like March or February. It was pretty late, I think. Um, and this season he is slashing 295, 327, 590 with a 918 OPS. You just mentioned a 556 slugging will put you in the MVP race. He's got a 590 slugging this year. And granted, it's not in as many plate appearances. He's had sort of a pinch hitter role at some points, but now he's made his way into the everyday lineup because, I mean, he has to. And he is one of 47 players in MLB history to have a 590 slugging percentage through 38 games to start a season in their age 36 season or older, minimum 100 plate appearances.
Oh,
yeah. So Ryan Zimmerman. Proving that he's not done yet.
Yeah, he's having a comeback season for sure. Ryan Zimmerman. With my how about that, I'm going with kind of the opposite of Ryan Zimmerman, a young player up and coming who hasn't really made his name yet, but who's been having a pretty good, I would say, last month. Jonathan India. He's I believe a second baseman for the
Reds.
Cincinnati Reds. And
he was a first round draft pick, I believe.
Yeah, fifth overall by the Reds. And in his last 23 games, he is hitting .310 with a 953 OPS, along with 3 stolen bases. And he's really been getting it done with being able to get on base in general. Along with his hits, he's also getting on via the walk, and his on base percentage is .432 in his last 23 games. In his last 24 games, actually, it's .432, and that ranks 6th in Major League Baseball in this span. And the men ahead of him are Carlos Correa, Yohan Moncada, Nick Castellanos, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto.
There we go.
Pretty good company, and he's also just ahead of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in this span, in terms of on base percentage. So. That is a good club to be in, even if it's just a 24 game sample size. But he's been getting on base like a madman, and could be the future of the top of the Cincinnati Reds lineup. So definitely look out for him, because also he's one of the fastest players in baseball as well. His sprint speed is above like 90th percentile. So just a guy to watch, potentially at the top of the Reds lineup for years to come. So Jonathan India.
How about that? That's
So
a good
now
one. By the way, Washington Nationals, we can cross off the list.
Yeah, there we go. We got 25 teams down now.
I think it's 24 because I forgot to add the Phillies.
All right.
We still have to do the Angels, the Mets, the Yankees, the Athletics, the Phillies. So that is 25. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done.
Oh, no, and the Padres. I'm sorry, the Padres too. We need 6 more.
Yeah, most of the teams we haven't done are actually like formidable teams. We've done most of the crappy teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does it for the positivity on the players. Now we're going to get into players and subjects that have been underperforming. So now our June 10th, 2021 edition of
Slightly Alarming.
So who has been on your radar for bad reasons?
I feel like this guy is just naturally on a lot of people's radars for not necessarily the right reasons, but there was a little glimmer of hope in him last season, but he's kind of resorted back to the player that we all know and love, Eric Hosmer. I mean, what more do I need to say? We all know exactly. we all know exactly what the deal is with Eric Hosmer. and it doesn't really need much explanation, but I'll just say it. He is notorious for just having the worst launch angle ever. Like, he consistently has a sub-zero launch angle where he just punches the ball into the ground more consistently than anyone else. And here's the thing. It's actually not necessarily a bad thing to be that heavy of a ground ball hitter. Like, it actually works for some guys. Eric Hosmer's a first baseman with 20th percentile sprint speed. If you're predominantly hitting ground balls, it's not going to work out very well for you. Um, and as I mentioned, his launch angle last season was a 13, or no, it wasn't. I'm sorry, it was an 8.7, which is like significantly above where it usually is. But now it's resorted back to a 2-degree launch angle. His career launch angle is 3.1 degrees, which, I mean, you gotta raise that. You gotta be better than that. And since May 8th in particular, it's been pretty bad. He is slashing 207, 240, 272 for a 511 OPS, 45 weighted runs created plus, which ranks third worst among all the qualified hitters with at least 90 plate appearances since that date, and naturally a 56.2% ground ball rate, which is pretty high. So Eric Hosmer, he's gone back to the old traditions that everyone wants him to break.
All right, Eric Hosmer.
Slightly alarming.
I was looking at him, but I think in that span, his expected batting average is actually pretty high.
It's actually good. His expected batting average is 278. Yeah, you're right.
But also it kind of was a correction, probably, in terms of, like, it's pretty evened out now. But May 8th. Yeah, May 8th, his batting average is 207. Expected batting average is 270. So it's been a bit of a difference, but it's kind of been an evening out of previous because he was probably getting pretty lucky beforehand. And the launch angle.
Like, ground balls usually have more convenient expected batting averages than like fly balls. And like I mentioned, like you have a much better chance of beating out ground balls if you're not a first baseman with 20th percentile sprint speed. Like, that's the issue here.
Yeah, and the launch angle thing is, like, he can kind of control that a little bit.
Yeah.
It obviously, as it's gone from 2.1 to 8.7.
One of the funniest things was Frank Fleming of Barstool like tweeted about like launch angle ruining the game, which is, I mean, you know how I feel about that. And Eric Hosmer, of all people, responded, was like, "Preach, Frank." It's like, dude, you have the highest ground ball rate, like, consistently in the majors. Like, maybe you should be paying attention.
Yeah, and it's not working. It's not working for you. Yeah, his launch angle has gone from 2.1 to 8.7 back to 2, and his ground ball rate, according to Baseball Savant, has gone from 56.8% to 47%, back up to 58.9%.
Yep.
Major League average is 45.2%. Yeah, this is an issue. But yeah, Eric Hosmer, slightly alarming. My slightly alarming. I normally don't go with this kind of area for it. We don't necessarily go to this area for slightly alarming, but I couldn't really find much else, so I'm doing a relief pitcher for slightly alarming. A guy who was a finalist for reliever of the year last year, Alex Colomé. In his last 20 appearances, he has a 6.23 ERA and 5 home runs allowed in 17 innings pitched. And his ground ball rate is the lowest it's been in the StatCast era. Funny we mentioned Eric Hosmer with this, as to note that having a low ground ball rate as a pitcher, not necessarily the best, especially when you're giving up a good amount of line drives. His fly ball rate is the highest it's been, and his hard hit rate is the highest it's been. So, as you would imagine, if your hard hit rate is the highest it's been and your fly ball rate is the highest it's been, home runs
you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, home runs are gonna run rampant. It's different if you're giving up soft fly balls, but he's given up some hard fly balls. Alex Colomé is, and he already has allowed the most home runs he's allowed as a reliever in the first half of a season in his career. So he's got about a month left of the first half, and he's already given up more home runs than he ever has in the first half as a reliever. He had one year where he was a starter and he had a lot more innings, but not counting that. But yeah, Alex Colomé, we talked about him as a potential reason as to why the Twins would be able to repeat success, because they were able to land a good reliever and get back Nelson Cruz. But Alex Colomé has not been the same reliever, and it wasn't just last year where he was good. He was consistently good for a few years before that, but this year so far, looking
Slightly alarming.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, listen, Chris, you say that like we don't usually look at relief pitchers for slightly alarmings, but like if you think about it, it's never really been more important to be a relief pitcher in this like than it is now.
right, yeah,
So like when guys like that are struggling, like it can be detrimental to a team's success. And we've talked about the Twins before, and I don't think Alex Colomé is the sole reason for the Twins' collapse. But I mean, he's definitely in part to blame. Like he blew the game on opening day. He's been pretty bad ever since then. And there's valid reason to be putting him on slightly alarming, even if we don't look at relief pitchers that often.
yeah. I mean, we mostly don't look at them because every sample size is a pretty small sample size, but it's been pretty rough, and his expected statistics have actually been worse than his actual statistics, which is pretty crazy to imagine, given that he has an ERA over 5 on the year. But yeah, his expected ERA is in like the high 6s, which is pretty crazy to consider.
Yeah, it's the 4th percentile.
Yeah, and in his last 20 appearances, 1 out of every 20 plate appearances has been a home run. Not the best. So yeah, he's someone who is more of a pitch to contact guy. So if you're giving up home runs as a pitch to contact guy, that's terrible. So maybe he will correct himself as the season goes along. But now we get into talking about the future of baseball in the short future, talking about the weekend ahead, preview wise. I usually go series by series. Daniel will go day by day, but I haven't really thought about the upcoming series just yet. I mean, the Mets and Padres are rematching. They just had a series in San Diego, and I guess an interesting matchup that you'll point out is on Friday. The fact that each of the 2018 Cy Youngs is going to be going against each other. But yeah, you can expand more upon that. Yeah, I think all I got for the audience is Mets Padres, maybe Red Sox Blue Jays. The Red Sox really need to recover whenever they face the Astros. It hasn't been good this year for them.
I think the Red Sox are getting Robbie Ray this weekend.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's true.
That's gonna be a fun time. Yeah. So you go to Mets Padres?
Yeah, Mets Padres. Not any crazy great.
Seems like the Padres are facing a good team every single time.
Yeah, they've had a.
Like you could have they faced the Diamondbacks and Rockies at all?
Yeah, are they even on the schedule?
Yeah,
Padres.
Did they forget to add them? Did they just put 70 games against the Dodgers?
Yeah,
I'd be fine with that, but I mean.
So since May 24th for the Padres, it's been 4 games against the Brewers, 3 games against Houston, 3 games against Chicago, 4 games against the Mets, and then 3 more games against Chicago, and then they got the Mets this weekend, and then it's Colorado on the road. So
there we go. They've earned it.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But what do you got day by day?
A lot of the matchups haven't been announced yet, but I'll do my best I can. Tonight you got Ian Anderson versus, actually in 2 hours, you got Ian Anderson versus Zach Wheeler. If that matchup is already done by the time you're listening, I'd say I guess Hyunjin Ryu versus Dallas Keuchel at 8-10. Two very similar archetypes of pitchers going against each other. Soft throwing lefties. Um, that'll be interesting. I know Dallas Keuchel isn't exactly the guy he used to be right now, but still, give it a watch. On Friday, you got the 2018 Cy Young winners, like Chris mentioned, Blake Snell versus Jacob DeGrom. Anytime Jacob DeGrom is on, it's worth a watch. Like he is on pace to having like the greatest pitching season the game has ever seen. Like that
Yeah.
is a very real thing that could happen. So that'll be fun. Saturday, nothing is really announced yet, unfortunately. Um, Corbin Burns will be going. You could watch him. Dylan Cease will be going. You could watch him. Um, Maybe Johnny Cueto versus Joe Ross is interesting because I think Joe Ross has had like very weird home road splits where he's like significantly better at one of them. I don't remember which one. Let me look that up right now. But Joe Ross has a 4.80 ERA, so I mean he's not necessarily great, but he's pitching at home. And let me see what his home road splits look like this year because I remember at some point in the season it was like drastically different.
We could
One of them. Yeah, okay, it's not what I expected actually. 7.90 ERA at home, 3.76 ERA on the road. So don't watch that because Johnny Cueto is gonna win that start on Saturday. I guess that's what you got for Saturday and Sunday. Um, Again, none of the matchups have really been announced. Logan Gilbert got his first big league win, his last time out, I believe. He'll be facing Shane Bieber on Sunday. Chris Paddock versus Marcus Stroman. Paddock has been a little bit better this year. That's about all that I got, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough because
Naturally, you have Cardinals Cubs on Sunday Night Baseball because ESPN has no parity outside of like 7 different teams.
Yeah, like I don't know. Luckily, I mean, luckily the Red Sox and Yankees were both good this year. Or
Yeah, at least
both.
that's a valid matchup. But I mean, like, I don't know. I've said this before, but I think they should wait like a couple months in advance to do the Sunday night matchups or like to schedule them.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, why not put Padres Mets? Like, those are two marketable teams that's a better matchup, I'd say, than uh the Cubs and Cardinals. And then let's
right.
see. Then next week it's Cardinals Braves. The Braves are under 500. The Cardinals have lost 6 of the last 7. Um, there's better matchups out there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, White Sox Astros. That's a good matchup. That's a really good matchup.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, because it's not like any of these teams have been have had time on uh too much time on Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get like if you're trying to market the game, why do the same 7 teams every week? Why does it have to be like Red Sox, Yankees, Cardinals, Cubs, Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Padres, Cardinals, Cubs, and that's it. That's their only vocabulary.
Right. Yeah, or like Dodgers Giants,
Yeah,
which is good now, but wasn't for the past
yeah,
few years.
yeah.
Um,
Like they
yeah,
had they had Giants Dodgers as like opening night in 2020 with Darren Ruff hitting 4th in the lineup. I was like, what are we doing?
yeah, yeah. It was like, all right, we got Garrett Cole versus Max Scherzer,
Great matchup. Yeah,
and then what? Kershaw versus Cueto or something, or
I
no, they had
think.
Dustin May out there, I
Yeah,
think.
Dustin May. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we're not gonna throw our ace first thing against the Giants.
Well, because
Um,
didn't the Dodgers like face a better team in the second like round of matchups? They're like, that's who we want to save them for. I
probably.
think they did something like that, but I could be wrong.
I think they might have been facing the Astros right after that, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
did. They did fit. Yeah, because they wanted to throw their guys against the Astros. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and want to watch that Garrett Cole non-answer or just the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_current, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show updates and stat graphics if you are interested in that. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Monday, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, we'll see you then.
This conversation is over.